lock in form on the Kaisa. Gonna be locked in.
There
So
we go. Okay.
how do we build around a dive comp? Because you don't have to with the Kaisa, but
Yeah.
it's usually the route you want to go.
That's the thing, right? If we had any of these dive-based champions still available to you, I'd say, hey, go full for it. Actually, to be fair, the Ambessa would work. Thinking of junglers that we've got available that can still work for these very aggressive pickups, and to be honest, there's not a lot of them left. It will be the Ambessa locked in. Skarner, Wukong, both of those could potentially work. I'd be interested, or BLG, I'm saying. FPX,
Yeah.
they're a little bit more open on this one overall. FPX did pull out the Z jungle in an attempt to win versus WE, I think it was. And that's something we really have not seen recently. Okay.
So a lot of mid-game power, but then they put Sheer on Scion duty. So if you're going to do this, it is fine, but I am expecting a sort of scaling bottom lane. But I would wonder if like a Jinx Lulu manifests behind this comp, because there are a lot of damage questions if you're picking this kind of top side.
Okay. You know what? I will admit I forgot that this is currently something that you can pick. That's how you turn this into a dive-based composition right here. Full all-in onto this one are BLG. Jwei gonna grab himself this Nocturne. Now, we've been calling recently for Jwei to just be on Sejuani duty. Put him on tank duty, stop him from hurting his team with over-aggression and misplaced dives. Still, if you're gonna go for it, this is the sort of composition that you can 100% index into. You're trying to play the early game very hard. What we're watching is gonna be, hey, how does this first paranoia work out? If it goes well, awesome. If not, it's a long cooldown to not get any benefit from.
I like it from BLG, a team that is known for their aggression, known for the ego, feeling like there's no team that compete with them on the stage. So they pick the dive comp, they pick the comp that has the clear amount of agency, and they still lock in on the second phase of bans. Well, they ban the Jinx. I like it because they know that Assume and Jwei have to bring a huge damage threat from this bottom lane, and they're losing a lot of those good options to do so. Can't pick that one, Elk.
Nope, that one hasn't very much gone through. I did see someone accidentally pick something that, you know,
yeah, it was 369. Remember we had to reroll the draft. He R5'd. I think he R5 Jace again after he played a Jace game.
The second Jace. Yeah, that one was wild. It is going to be the Alistar, just another little bit of power in this bottom lane 2v2. Also works very well amongst everyone else. If you want some more early game aggression, we have been seeing this a little bit recently. Not from everybody.
Yeah.
From Leave. Do you want to just slam the Lucian Nami here? I mean, it's a massive risk, but it does beat the Kai'Sa Alistar straight up.
It does. Do you want Melio? Do you want Nami? They go Braum. So
okay, not so much to really be blocking in terms of the Braum shield. You could stop the Prey Seeker out of the Kai'Sa. That is at least something to do. Aurora
this is an
right
odd
now
pick, though. I'm really intrigued by the Braum. It's clear that it brings you like extra protection, but you already have a Scion here. Talia creates space. This felt like a clear Enchanter angle. We'll have to see how it works on the Rift as the Aurora does come through. This is the new Nocturne Orianna that we saw earlier on in the year. It's the Nocturne Aurora combo.
Rather than it being a ball delivery system, it basically just turns into an Aurora delivery system as she comes flying in alongside you. A lot of damage available too. Doesn't really get a lot of solo kills during the lane into the Talia matchup, but very much you're looking to get into the later stages of the game, find the Lucian, and murder him in a straight-up one-tap. If you get far enough ahead as Knight, not even that far ahead, just far enough ahead, you can completely reduce this Lucian to absolutely nothing and make it so he never feels comfortable to really be able to step up and land one of those full cullings into some of the squishier members.
I have to say, though, Bloxer, I think FPX kind of got played in this draft and backed into a corner, backed into having to do what so many teams have struggled to do against BLG, and that's win a clear lane. And the fact that it's bottom lane again after that game too definitely worries me for the hopes of FPX coming away with a huge 2-1 win right now.
Very much preferring the composition that BLG were able to put themselves together. I mean, there's some level of anti-dive that you can try to make work here for FPX, you know. It's not completely doomed, and if they're able to get themselves ahead in a couple of these lanes, hey, potentially this could work. If your Scion can get tanky enough in the late game, awesome, but, you know, the Lucian wants to play early. The Lee wants to play early. I mean, the point at which the Scion's really getting online should be later enough into this game that you're not going to be so worried about it here as BLG. We'll have to wait and see, though, because anytime there's a Nocturne on our screen, you got to watch it. How do you do on that first Paranoia? Do you get yourself ahead? This champion, he can always turn the lights off, but he needs items under his belt to not feel useless during the team fights.
A composition from BLG with ease of execution and lends itself well to a team with confidence, a team with aggression. Came in asking, how does FPX beat BLG? And we got our answer in game 1, but we got our worrisome other solution from BLG in game 2. None of that matters now. It all comes down to this game 3. And what do we start with? On Burning Heal to protect Elk and Knight.
Not quite ideal. Now, the heal is going to be pretty useful, especially because in this 2v2 lane, as we always say, Alistar basically a glorified minion before he manages to hit that level 2. See if that actually ends up having an impact or not. There's a reason that the Lucian Brom is such a strong 2v2 lane. The ability to stack that passive up to get people stunned up is so very strong with the double taps you get from the Lucian. See right now, a lot of movement going on still, though. Shadow stepping up is just going to steal away this blue buff. Fully on vision is going to be well and truly spotted out here from FPX, but I don't know that there's particularly anything you can do about it as BLG. In fact, the bot lane for FPX step up, stop on and Elk from being able to walk into their lane comfortably, and that means this should be the level 2 that they're going to be able to grab for themselves a lot faster.
Yeah, it was close. I thought assuming Jwei might even miss out on XP themselves, but with those new ranges changed to 2025, I think they were able to grab it, and it's definitely what Elk and On were expecting, but it doesn't make it feel any better. As On does actually commit the headbutt, he's going to get stunned up here as the heal used to get Assume closer. If he had a double tap in store, Assume would have had the kill onto On, who is thanking his lucky stars that he doesn't get killed off right there.
Absolutely. I mean, what we have been seeing out of NIP is this combo. It's the Lucian Nami for leave. That's the way they've been trying to win their games, trying to stop their slide. It worked out really well for them in one of their games, but so far, so good in this one. I think they can. You've got so much CC.
There's barrier up for Elk. He also has flash. They're going to use the Braum stun. They're just going to go for On instead.
Yep.
Clinical turret aggro juggle, and will they reset and try and over-aggress onto Elk? He's going to try and flash over the first Q. Dodges out on the Braum Q. Still gets stunned up, and Shadow with a perfectly timed flash. That's the exact start you need for FPX. 2-0 towards their bottom lane.
Absolutely is, and Knight's even going to get drawn down here. Potentially going to go for this one, but I don't think he wins this one. Has to flash away. Going to get stunned up anyway, and Assume one more shot. Dead. Just going to take him down. FPX, what is this early game?
Assume 1-0-2 now. This feels like exactly what happened with NIP and Top Esports, Bloxer, when we were so concerned about putting all your eggs into this Lucian basket. But if you win bottom lane,
hey,
solves a lot of the
It
elements.
works. Yeah. Like, hey, it's not stupid if it works. To be honest, I wasn't even too worried about it during the early game. I didn't expect it to be this many kills. And the thing I was watching whilst all of the shenanigans were happening bot side was, what's the response, right? What are you trading for this? Well, look on the minimap right now. You're trading it for the enemy jungler taking his own jungle. He took his Krugs while the dive was happening. He's taking his red buff whilst Knight is walking up in an interesting situation, let's say. You're not losing out on anything whilst this player's happening bot side. This is practically free here for FPX.
Now they're going to index further into that lead. Lane swap themselves into the matchup against the Ambessa. Like we talked about, every time we see this Scion, happy to be in a 1 versus 2 and try and give more resources over to the carries on his team. FPX, clinical, getting those early kills bot side, and just as locked in, rotating on the map. They are not going to be pushed over again up against BLG. Becaire is the target of this mid lane play. On good sidestep. He knew the seismic shove was coming. And Care is taken care of. First kill on the board for Knight and BLG.
Yep. At least they're able to grab something back for themselves, and the fact that Knight is able to pick up this kill is huge. He's going to be the main person responsible alongside Jwei for jumping into the backline, killing Assume, and taking out the main damage threat right here for FPX. See a couple members right here. Potentially could go for this play if you get that knock up onto Assume, bop it back further under the tower. Not going to end up happening. The farming just going to carry on. Hang on.
Assume going to get out of turret
really
range.
win this. No,
yeah,
On, what are you doing?
That's why the value of the Braum. Jwei showing why he picked this over the Enchanter. Completely blocks all of Elk's damage, and On has to go for a reset.
And they're just going to be able to keep pushing this one through. This is why you want to be pushing as much of your advantage through the Lucian as possible. This champion does fall off pretty hard into the later stages of the game, but right now, so much power. This is exactly what we want to see out of FPX. If they were to win this game, if they were to get back into their winning ways after just losing to WE, having a 3-game win streak snapped, and they were going to need to play BLG fast and aggressive, and so far, so good, and it hasn't even really taken too much interaction elsewhere. You can see, despite the fact that you're kind of waiting around bot lane, making that dive happen, picking up a couple of kills, not even like Shadow's fallen behind in terms of farm. He's put himself in a great spot overall, going to be able to grab himself at least one of these grubs, smites away the second two,
yeah.
And there's actually no response here. My lord, FPX, they really are in control of this early game.
FPX are playing BLG's game better than BLG right now. Just ever aggressive, ever present across all parts of the map, with the bottom lane holding a huge lead. That could be how you define this game, and also the first 7 minutes of game 2.
Absolutely. Let's see if there's going to be anybody looking towards this Drake anytime soon. So far, the reset's just coming through. Shadow going to head back out onto the rest of the map. Deals quite a lot of damage at this point. Obviously, the Lee Sin likes to play through the early game. And level 6 is just about now ticked for some of these. Especially going to be Jwei. Now has that level 6, now has that Paranoia available. That's going to be the key ulti. Where can you go? Who can you dive in? You've got a couple of different dive buddies to play alongside. The Ambessa, the Aurora, and the Kai'Sa can all join you on these heavy engages. But it has to be that you do enough damage to be able to take somebody down within that Paranoia darkness. Otherwise, you're just putting yourself in a terrible spot, allowing yourself to get turned and killed.
For the time being, as Jwei debates where he wants to go with that Paranoia, he's giving up more neutral objectives and more wins to FPX. They're going to come away with first 3 grubs and first dragon with no real answer. Where is the BLG that is all about might in this early phase? They picked a comp that thrives in this window, and it needs to start showing up now, or they might see themselves coming into the final game of the round robin, and even 4-4. That's a hero minion trying to block for Knight, but he has to pop the Between Worlds to make sure that Shadow doesn't kick him back into Care. So that ults down, and maybe that dive buddy can't play with the Nocturne.
Oh, using that one defensively really does feel bad right here for Knight. Won't be able to be proactive at this point. Still, things have slowed down just a little bit for the moment. Doesn't look like we're going to get any explosive dives or anything right now. Instead, you can see people just mainly farming up for themselves. Shit, I mean, this isn't fun for the Scion, but again, you really don't mind it overall. Even if you fall behind a little bit in terms of CS and XP, Scion will get tanky eventually, will still just be that front line that you very much need to buy space for Care and Assume to be able to do their damage.
Alex going to be a long ways away on a likely pretty AD-centric Kai'Sa build to burn through the likes of Sheer. So we got to continue to give credit to FPX for these lane assignments to try and nullify, not as much nullify BLG being able to farm up well, but push further the leads towards Care, Assume, and mostly Shadow for Windows to play through with this Lee Sin that is playing that sort of bridge role.
Yeah, absolutely. We see that be Shadow's role quite a lot for FPX, where the composition works
when they're their
more
best
towards the later stages, and he's just good at getting them through. Obviously, this composition far more about playing through the early stages of this Lucian. The next big thing you're going to be looking to play around is the point at which that first item is completed, very close to that breakpoint coming through for Assume, and you can get very aggressive. Second set of grubs going to be spawning in 50 seconds, still 3 minutes until the next Drake, because we were very delayed in the pickup of that first one. So with this next set of grubs, if you could pick up all 6 for yourselves here as FPX, it's going to make moving towards these towers so much easier, especially for Scion. If he ever gets alone time in the side lane, just begin melting through.
Yeah, demolish proc, get those mites going. You can slip in and grab some pretty coveted turrets. But the question we're continuing to ask here for BLG, where is this first paranoia of the game? Jwei's now up to level 7. They're likely to try to make that play around these grubs. Question is, what do FPX want to do? They've got options. Could give up these grubs if they like. Try and steal one away and back off. It's really what Shadow wants to dictate as he gets back onto the map. With that first item completed, he has Sundered Sky. But maybe this is an overstep from Assume and Jwei. They're going to start up the grubs on their own in front of Jwei with Paranoia. They're dashing towards Jwei. There is no fear in the heart of this FPX bottom lane right now.
No, they're playing so aggressive, and because Care was hovering along the mid lane, could easily have popped the Weaver's Wall through and split up that fight completely. Here's the Paranoia.
Here it is. Between Worlds going to slow everybody down. They're having an Nebessa teleport onto the flank, and FPX don't know because the lights get turned off. Fear lands over on towards Shadow. They're going to try to burn through, but the Braum shield blocks all of the damage from Knight. The Colleen comes down, but Bin dashes in, gets stunned from the Braum, and falls completely flat. Bin is down. Knight is sectioned off, knocked up, thrown to the wind. FPX are doing it. They're blowing through BLG in Game 3. They want to climb the standings of Group Ascend and drag BLG down with them. 4-0, clean fight for FunPlus Phoenix.
The fact that Jwei doesn't even die there is just salt in the wound here for BLG. They are getting bullied around this map at the moment. Assume he's a runaway right here. He's going to lose a turret plating over to Elk, but this is a small little bit back for BLG. All 6 of the grubs go over to FPX. They are in a dominant position in this Game 3.
They're rich. They're soaking in the glory, and who is at the helm of it? Shadow. 3-0-3. As Bloxer, you walk us back through this huge fight win for FPX.
It's the TP flank out of the Ambassador that just doesn't work, and it's this moment here, right? This is a full culling into an Alistar with ulti up. Usually that would be a real bad decision, but you don't have the damage on the remaining members of BLG to make it work. Even once you finally get to jump in as Bin, you don't pick up the kill on Jwei. He's just about able to move. Knight has to flash downwards to avoid getting pushed back by the seismic shove. Dies. From this point on, it's just easy pickings right here. I mean, this fight could not have gone worse for BLG, but they were so close to being able to win it. If they hadn't lost the early game so hard, if they weren't down just a little bit in terms of items, they would have won that fight.
And if this game goes FPX's way, I dare say that we're going to have 3 straight support player of the games. That last fight, you pointed out a bit, Jwei, the ultimate bodyguard. He blocks the entire damage output from Elk and Knight's entire combo.
Yeah.
The Shadow should have been dead by all rights there, but Jwei denies them.
Exactly, and living himself just to, give that little bit extra over to FPX. They're now going to be up by a decent chunk of gold. About 2,000, not huge, but for this point in the game, more than good enough with the Drake and with the 6 grubs. Very happy with this one. Now they're looking to play around this Chemtech Drake.
Oh, with the vibe switch. Jwei diving in straight on top of the Lucian with the Killer Instinct. Elk finds his mark. The veteran C for BLG showing its true colors. They find an opening. They break it wide open. And how does FPX navigate this fight without their true damage dealer? Shadow dashes in with the Sonic Wave. Tries to go for Elk with the kick. But Elk is better. The public execution saves them. Bin bails out Elk. Knight sure stuck in a 1 versus 3. But Karen can't step up far enough. His health bar is far too low. And Bin knows it. Eviscerates him. Flashing forward just like that. BLG do not go quietly. They bark back.
There we go, Jwei. That's exactly the paranoia we've been waiting for. Just manages to one-tap through Assume. The barrier just comes up after he ends up dying. And that's so much of the gold and power of your team gone. So much of the damage just lost immediately. And it means the BLG able to win that fight. I think, unfortunately for FPX, they got too aggressive. The point at which you lose your Lucian, it sucks. Give up the Drake, step away, go try push through top wave maybe. Get yourself a little bit of mid-wave priority too once everybody moves down to the Drake. Instead, they look for the re-engage right here. Specifically, I'm watching Shadow here. He just keeps stepping up again. and again, looking to go in. I get it, right? You've got yourself that Sundered Sky, you're in a good spot as the Lee Sin, but everybody dashes away and stops him from being able to get that insect kick back that he was really looking for.
Does take both Summoners of Elk to survive that. Knight.
Oh my.
Oh,
The
Knight.
heal from On. Just the minion
Alistair passive
kill.
heal.
Yeah, that heal is nothing. That is a tiny little heal that is meant to get your ADC through the laning phase, but it comes in clutch right there.
A lot of adversity being thrown FPX's way. We talk about a lot of the ways this matchup is tied together. We highlighted the jungle matchup. The standings put them pretty darn close as well, currently in Group Ascend, but what definitely separates these two rosters is how they respond to pressure. We know BLG can bounce back. They just showed it in real time that last fight. FPX, that's definitely been a question mark for a team of young players that don't have as nearly as much experience together as BLG. So what do? They continue to be as aggressive as possible with a calling from Assume that does get the flash out of Jwei, and that might just signal Rift Herald in the hands of FunPlus Phoenix.
Yeah, that takes a lot of the survivability away from this Nocturne and also takes away the ability to flash follow to make sure you get the fear off after the paranoia. Really good pickup there, but still looks like BLG, they want to fight this one.
Here we go, where there's smoke, fire coming next, and BLG has lit Assume ablaze. Once again, the Lucian drops, the dive comp executes flawlessly. And Shadow and Care looking to pick up the pieces here. Does Shadow take another aggressive Sonic Wave? No, this time he learns his lesson. But it's rinse and repeat. BLG have found the formula. Knock down Assume first.
Yeah. That's the reason that you go the Hex Plate here as well. You're just trying to get these ultis off, constantly get into the backline and make so Assume can't play. You can see there, he blew the flash, he blew the barrier, and it just did not matter.
Oh,
he secured two.
FPX, this is a Rift Herald that you have to give.
Hang on.
It's so hard for them to fight without Assume. At the very least, they do fry up some burgers. On does drop.
Actually, Shadow stepping up quite aggressively right now, trying to cut off any member who's trying to step to this tier 1 tower in the mid lane. Give Assume and Care enough time on it to be able to pick this one up. 6 grubs means that this one should be melted through and fall. It's something back right here for FPX. Will give them the slight gold advantage right here, but after being about 2,000, 3,000 gold in the lead just 5-6 minutes ago, BLG, they've been able to claw this one back.
Partly because they've even been a lot of time alone on these bot lanes to scale back into this one. He's even levels now with Sheeran. You can see Bin likes the tasty gold that Sheer's sporting on that bounty. Maybe he wanted to test if he can finally fight this Scion, but he's not at that level just yet. You need at least 2 items, my guy.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have a look back at this one. The second that you can go in, you do. We talked about there being lots of different dive buddies to go in alongside Jwei. This one was Elk. Just heads straight on in, and between the two of them, more than enough damage to be able to cut through this Lucian. You can see, though, this is now going to be a 2 items completed Lucian. Assume very, very strong when he's allowed to sit and deal damage. But FPX, they're going to have to spend a lot more time and energy on trying to keep him alive right now. Between Sheer, Jwei, and maybe even Shadow, you should be able to, right? You can kick somebody away, you can seismic shove somebody away, but with the Nocturne ulti down, without the ability to see, you've got to be stood very close to Assume to be able to keep him alive.
It's going to be a very big-time game of chicken.
Yeah.
Because even though FPX are afraid of that paranoia, they know that there's a catch-22 with this comp of BLG, that if they get baited into jumping in when FPX is ready for it, it's going to really sting and completely eradicate some of these fights. So timing windows are huge in this game.
Absolutely. They are going to be the next Drake spawning in just a couple of seconds' time. The minute, you can see quite a lot of push happening, and actually quite a lot of members right here of BLG stepping up towards the top side of the map, just hovering Knight, making sure he's going to be safe enough to push through this tower. Top lane, that is fully going to open up the bottom side of the map to FPX. That should be another Drake going into their back pockets. Still, because you were able to pick up one by BLG, it's not the end of the world for them. It's not really take you too much closer to getting the soul. The map still very even overall. The gold pretty even as well. BLG small advantage of themselves because of the towers. This game really feels like it's on a knife's edge because the composition for FPX really spikes right now. But same kind of thing for a couple of these members for BLG.
BLG are a team that is known for being willing to trade some of those neutral objectives for just general standing gold. Here's why you drafted Talia, by the way. Oh. Actually, was the Weaver's Wall just a bit too early? I was about to praise Care.
Still, it stops anybody from deciding to ride it and going
That's true.
So you do keep that mid lane tower alive. There's at least going to be something. Still, though, we haven't really been able to see a lot of particularly proactive plays so far from Care with this Weaver's Wall. Hasn't been using it to roam around, cut people off in and amongst team fights. See if that ends up changing going on forwards. Atakan available right now. Both of these teams have got their junglers around in the area. A lot more FPX members here, though.
Let's see what BLG want to do here. Let's trying to bring up the fact that they are usually very comfortable with giving up some of these neutrals for standing gold. And Knight does not really seem like he wants to budge from the top side of the map. He is threatening a tier 2 turret, but the rest of BLG are walking their way through. But that walk is very treacherous in towards this Atakan. And finally, Knight will teleport in. They're going to try and set up flank lines, but with the Knight TP coming across, FPX are not comfortable trying to 50-50 this Atakan, knowing those Paranoia and Dive Buddy ultimates are all available.
They're going to be happy with that one, though. You get the teleport out of Knight, who's been very happy sat on side lanes at the moment. Bin still does his, so it's not going to be the end of the world. You can still send somebody to the opposite side of the map, but Knight has been shredding through towers when he's been allowed to touch them. And you don't even give the Herald back the other way. I think that's fine as a play overall for FPX. It's just about what they now do with the couple of minutes they have before the teleport's going to be back available to Knight. How can you get yourself more gold, re-establish yourself a gold lead like you had at the very start of this game? 3 minutes now until we're going to be seeing the Baron spawning. Atakan still something these teams are going to have to jockey for position over.
Still waiting for that last 2-item power spike to come through on the Knight as well. Meanwhile, the scaling sort of protective build for Care with the Roa, and the Seraphs done. Add some extra protection.
Yeah.
So 2 items across the board here done for FPX, but you can still see a massive gold lead. Now actually accrued for Elk through that farm lead and grabbing that shutdown. That is not what FPX want to see, knowing how much they need this Lucian to be the premier gold factory of this game.
The second that you end up hitting one of these prey seekers, where you can just go in onto that person because they're now spotted out. That's the combo that you're really looking to hit. It's a little bit tricky, of course. It's a pretty small skill shot. But just being able to follow up alongside this Nocturne is 100% of the combo that you're looking to do here as BLG. Right now, they are sat quite far away from this Atakan, not really looking to play around it. A couple resets coming through as well. Feels like these teams don't really know where the next moment they want to fight over is. Minute 40 until the Drake pops up. Once we've got a couple of objectives down here and the Baron up on the top side, this becomes a very interesting trade, potentially.
It's the complete push and pull from FPX, knowing that TP is not available for Knight, and Sheer can just match Bin. With the Talia, that Weaver's Wall, and TP, FPX are really trying to play overloads and man advantages in this window, but they haven't been too great moving around the map, and it's kind of why the turret advantage is in BLG's favor, despite them having no grubs. And I mean, if Elk steps up there, feels comfortable enough, he probably gets that mid-tier 1 turret too.
Yeah, absolutely, and being able to just grab that away have been really useful. The minute, not quite going to be able to do so. These teams kind of just standing off against each other, not fully pulling the trigger. Less than a minute now until these big objectives are going to be available. Item breakpoints hit for a lot of these members. Some decent components towards the third items as well. The main thing to watch right during these team fights is how does Assume do? Does he just get immediately killed by Jwei? If so, these team fights are just not winnable for FPX. At the same time, if he lives, if he's able to get a good culling off on some of these key members, well then these fights are looking so hot for FPX.
It's the main worry because FPX have drafted some good protection, but they're also playing Shadow on Lee Sin, who his entire goal is diving backline. They need to be succinct on their identity. Are they going to follow Shadow on these deep flanks, on these deep dives? Why not when he finds L? Good killer instinct to cut the distance back down, but he does have to burn the flash. Paranoia comes up. This one is used defensively from Jwei.
Yeah, that's huge.
As Shadow finds a huge double ult and flash that maybe slows down BLG's Dragon take, but FPX seem like they have other plans. Or just taking the control of the midway for now, and for the moment, it feels like BLG really can't contest this Drake. Are they willing to give over Ocean Soul Point?
Yeah, it's a big risk to give this one over, especially on a composition with a Scion. Jwei is stepping up, though. Can he get close enough to steal? No. This one is just going to go over. Now, do you want to keep pushing forwards as FPX, try to find a fight, or are you happy to back off? Looks like they are going to choose to back away from this play. The second that the Paranoia is down, used defensively here, it opens up FPX. You no longer need to worry that Assume's just going to get dove and one-tapped.
And you now know as well that Elk is much more of a sitting duck whenever you go for these plays. It's awesome to see Shadow continuing to do this. The man that we want to highlight for so much of FPX's successes, finding the dream pick. Sure, he gets his flash down on the insect, but you trade your flash ready carry flash every single time.
Especially on the Lee Sin, right? This is an especially good trade right there, and Elk now has to be very careful for the next 3 and a bit minutes. Mid lane tier 2, Knight. He might pay for his life with this one. No, actually, he gets to just step up and walk away. Interesting.
Yeah, that was brash.
Yeah.
But like you called out, next 3 minutes without that Elk flash, and look what's going to be on the map for it. Opticon is all the way down on the bot side. Baron is now up top. So this is the window where you think the FPX want to go for the fight, but here's the dive onto Assume. This time they protect Assume well. Jwei gets complete value out of this Braum, and it's the flank from Sheer trying to break up the BLG fighting lines. Gets the knock up onto Ult, but the seismic shove onto Jwei. What a clutch W from Care. Down goes Jwei. The dive con falls flat, and now they've got to head for the hills, but there's no hills to be found when the Weaver's Wall comes up to cut off all your escape routes. Ult is down next. FPX survive the dive, and boy, do they reap the rewards.
And they're going to turn this one around to pick up the Baron right here. FPX, they do not want to slide down. They want to get themselves back to even. They want to show that they're one of the better teams we've got in the mid-pack right here of Group Ascend. Jwei is down, so the easy steal not going to be here. So you need to be careful right here as FPX, taking decent amount of damage from the Baron at the moment.
What does the golden left hand of the royalty of LPL have to do here? It's Elk flying in with the killer instinct. Great flash, though, to get FPX all bundled up together, and they secure the Baron.
Oh, no.
And now they can find out because Care has found the pick of a century. Bin steps up too far, and the earth under him unravels, and he brings Knight down with him. Baron and 2. It's dessert right now for FPX. That's how sweet of a game they're playing.
Absolutely, they had a great early game. BLG fought back for a little bit, but now FPX back in firm control of this one. Pushing up very far, a couple low health bars. You do have to worry a little bit. The Paranoia is back up and available for Jwei, and it looks like BLG potentially want to go for a fight here.
But they don't have any killer instinct. Elk can't really cut down the angle. It'd be Jwei flying in by himself. On really has to be a little bit less treacherous. Good headbutt, though. Does get Shadow off of him, but here comes the Scion ult. They use the Paranoia again defensively, but On falls first. Does Jwei create enough space to get himself back to safety? BLG continue to get picked off one by one. They're stragglers looking for a home, but all they're finding is crumbled structures and a mounting gold lead for FunPlus Phoenix.
This is now going to be the Baron plus 6 grubs soul point as well, off of the back of 2 great fights around objectives. And this second one really gives them all their flowers. Like you said, it's all about watching what ends up happening right here. Just dashes away. Got no ability to actually kill onto Assume, and you can't afford that. And then it's that seismic shove. Yeah. The second the seismic shove happens and you lose that first kill, the chase down right here is great as well. The Weavers will just be able to get closer still, grab the kill onto On. But it's this point here where I'm questioning the decision making. Oh, hang on.
Yes.
Hang on.
Oh boy. Oh no, Bin.
This
is not your bottom lane to control anymore. FPX are a bloodthirsty animal ever since they've got the power of the purple worm under them.
Absolutely, they're going to be able to push forward. 6 grubs, like we said, so this tower is just going to melt right now. You can also then transition that into a push through the mid lane. The wave being helped in right now by Sheer. Jwei playing bodyguard, at least at the moment. Inhibitor tower still falling, and it doesn't feel like BLG can afford to step up.
But they have to. They're playing the dive comp. They're all designed to go in. They can't play on the back foot, but they're completely crumbling in their own base. Here might be the final touches on the series as Assume goes for the killer blow onto Elk. Shadow flashes after him. Flash for flash, but Inhibitor's down. There are 6 scrubs here. FunPlus Phoenix, a team nobody thought would get out of placements into Group Ascend, have now done the unthinkable. JDG falls a week ago, but now it's BLG that fall to the might of FPX.
Let's go! What a fight right there to finish things off. FPX, they just step up with the Baron buff, with the Grubs. There is nothing that you can do as BLG. And this team, this historic team, the best team in the LPL throughout 2024, fall to an FPX that looked like they were not in a good spot at the beginning of this split.
We got, again, when we came into that placement tournament talking about Group Ascend versus Group Nirvana, there were a lot of people that didn't have FPX. They were talking LGD. They were talking like maybe Ultra Prime. This is such a meteoric rise and maybe a complete LPL shakeup. We talk about the circle of suck.
Yeah.
At this point, it's the tribe of the new guard. FunPlus Phoenix and BLG. They're right here and here on Group Ascend. Who would have ever thought that would happen, Bloxer?
And FPX just lost to WE, right? That's just what is happening with the Circle of Suck, right? FPX, they were looking so hot. They'd had a very, very bad start to the split. They'd lost 4 games. Bad. Then all of a sudden, they managed to turn things around by beating Weibo. They beat JDG. They managed to pick up a win against NIP, lose to WE, then turn around and beat BLG. Genuinely a crazy turnaround for this team. WE are also on a rise at the moment.
Yep.
Really, beyond the top 2 teams, and even then, not entirely, it feels like anybody's beating anybody at the moment.
Yeah, that middle of the pack is so volatile. It's just anything can happen. It can shift up like a creaky ladder. But it's just wild. I'm glad you read out all their wins and losses because, again, I want to go back to where we were at with the LPL in Split 1, which is not that long ago, like a couple of months now. If you had told LPL fans, like 2 months later, that FunPlus Phoenix would be taking best of 3 series off of BLG, Weibo, and JDG, you would have been laughed out and sent to the loony bin.
Yeah, for good reason. This was not a particularly good-looking team during Split 1, and all of a sudden, they've turned it around, and it's not like they came into the placements and smacked everybody, and then they've joined, and they've been destroying people. They've had to come back from being in a really bad spot, 0-4. Talked about as the worst team right now in Group Ascend. Oh boy, would they even beat some of the top Group Nirvana teams? Well, currently, yeah. It looks like they would. They are putting themselves in brilliant spots. And the narrative just keeps changing for a ton of these teams. Right now, the only teams who it feels like we've got a real read onto, in my mind, is Top, AL, and Thunder Talk. And it's not a good read onto Thunder Talk at the moment, unfortunately for them.
Yeah, I don't know how far I'd even... Yes, with Top, they're 8-1. I understand with Top Esports. They are allergic. They are allergic to 2-0 series too. They've actually played the most games for the amount of series they've played so far because they throw 2-1s. It is wild. It is wild. The wild, wild west of the LPL is I would like to put it. But on the flip side of these conversations, Bloxer, BLG, I feel like again in that game 3, they just forced fights that because they felt like they can't lose.
This is kind of what we were saying during the early stages of this game and during the pre-show, right? Problem with BLG, yes, we can have some blame on Jwei, we can put some blame on Bin. I don't think Knight played a particularly good Aurora game either right here. But it's very specifically their team play where they compound upon whatever happens. Early game, they start smashing, they keep smashing. We saw it in game 2. For games 1 and 3, they begin losing, they go for fights they're not necessarily in a good position to win, and they just start losing. I've not seen a lot from BLG of an ability to be able to come back from an early deficit. It feels like they really need the momentum in their hands. This is not the same as
Yes.
the BLG that we got to see even during Split 1, but especially during 2024, where this team, even if they did fall behind, which was rare, they could still pull it back. They were still more than good enough to be able to make losses into wins and keep themselves in games.
It's a combination of the belief that they are just always going to be able to
Yeah.
fight through adversity in some of these games and get away with things that they're used to getting away with, and the new mantra you're kind of speaking on, that you kind of have to be worried for a BLG game if they're not incredibly ahead out of lane.
Yeah.
But it's not happening. It's not coming together every game. You get flashes of it. We saw a flash of it in game 2.
Yeah.
But that is not going to cut it in the current LPL, and certainly won't cut it against the other teams that we talk about as the premier LPL orgs. You are not doing that against Top Esports. You are not doing that against AL, and you probably aren't doing that against JDG.
Right now, BLG are floundering, and they've not got the easiest schedule coming up. Because of the way that the double round robin flips back over, their next game is going to be against Weibo, and then against Weibo, and then against FPX. So their next 3 games are against other teams very much sat in the same sort of standings as them. Now, of course, we've seen it quite a lot from BLG, where when they lose a game, they don't tend to then lose the next one. They come back angry, they come back swinging on the next one. So we'll see how Weibo are able to step up to them coming up. But BLG, this is their week where they play the most games. They've got 4 games this week, and the fact that you kick it off with a loss to FPX in a series where you only win game 2 because you get so far ahead in game 2 that there was no hope for FPX to be able to get back, that's not the momentum you want going into a very tough week.
But all the momentum now rides on the FPX side. Again, 4-5 as their record does not really tell the full story. Bloxer did a good job highlighting it, that they started 0-4, getting laughed out of Group Ascend. To be here now at 4-5 is, I don't want to call it a miracle because that implies there's luck. It is sheer will and determination as a team that has got them here. It's time to really symbolize that final series win. Player of the game, where are we going? I feel like we might just go 3 for 3 on supports. I think Jwei, this Braum was integral.
I think Jwei had a really impressive performance. It wasn't necessarily Assume's fault that he ended up dying a couple of times, and he was dealing some good damage back, but it felt like Jwei was just so much of the early aggression that he was able to just sort of pull his team through. But again, when FPX wins, it feels like they're always team wins. Care was doing a good amount. Shadow was playing the Lee Sin early very well. I think he had a couple of mistakes, a couple of over-aggressive plays, but still was able to pay it back for the rest of the team.